The minimum wage has increased. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. I've got my morning stein of coffee, and I thought we'd have a look at this article that's discussing the increase to the minimum wage. Now, yesterday we spoke about JobSeeker, how the welfare system here in Australia, how they are proposing to increase it. Now, there's a problem with that. If you increase JobSeeker too much, it's going to reduce the incentive for people to actually find a job. Think about it. If you can get enough to get by, and then you go to a job, and the difference that you earn is only maybe for a full-time employment over a year, only a few thousand. Is that enough of an incentive for you to go through the hassle of working? And there's costs associated with working. There's travel, there's food, there's clothing, there's all these other costs. Then there's all the social things that have to often occur in an office or corporate environment. I remember there was one place we were working at. I was working, actually, it was a government department. Forgive me, I did do a stint in one. And we had to buy cakes for everyone every month. They even bought presents for the manager of the office and for the receptionist, who were government employees. Who were, I was a student or graduate. They were government employees on a fantastic wicket who didn't, frankly, have to work very hard, because I'd been in the private sector and seen the difference. And I just said, why do I need to, it's not like I want to socialize with half of these people outside. This is at the Architecture Practice Academy. So you had graduates from the two big unis here in Queensland getting this job in this little micro practice under the Department of Public Works. So you can imagine let's just say, the people that it attracted, or a lot of arrogant people like me too. So it was quite a competitive and dysfunctional environment. And what frustrated me is all these extra costs. So there are all these other things that are associated with working that some people tend to not appreciate. So it can quickly add up. And then if you add to that childcare and other costs, it can become quite tough. So when people advocate for an increase to the minimum wage, they're going, oh, fantastic, the little guy gets ahead. But there's a problem with that, because this is an intervention into the market. Whenever you do that, you have unemployment. So what we're looking at here, everyone, this is a simple supply and demand curve for wages. So this is the wages that people are paid, and this is the quantity of labor that's achieved. Now, it will hit an equilibrium where the supply of workers and the demand for workers, the wages will reach an equilibrium here. And that's the equilibrium wage. That is the wage that the market sets. Okay, that is the wage that if you leave it just up to its own devices, it will find an equilibrium. People will start to realize what other, they'll offer their services at a certain hourly rate. Other people will come in and the wage will reach an equilibrium level. It may not be as high or luxurious as it was, or it may actually be higher. So say this supply curve, let's say if it moves over here, and all of a sudden the number of workers decreases. Oh, I can't. I need to get my pen screen. But anyway, you know what I mean. It moves over here. That means the equilibrium for the market is now here. And say the number of workers increases. The supply curve moves this way. The equilibrium of the market reaches here. So this is the wage. So maybe that's, $10. And that's, I don't know, $5 or $8. You know what I mean. So you can see how the supply and market can adjust over time. But the thing is, I'll just erase this, is when there's an intervention in the market. And this is where we said, the government says, okay, this here has to be the minimum wage. This has to be the minimum wage. But the supply doesn't change. So the supply is still at this level. This is the supply curve. And so you can see there's going to be more people wanting to work at a higher wage than at a lower wage. But the equilibrium level, because demand hasn't changed, is still here. So this is what people are willing to pay. But it's up here. So only demand is down here. So demand for labor is down here, but supply is all the way up here. So you've got this unemployment rate between the quantity of labor that's actually hired and the supply. So here, by having this intervention in the market, by forcing there to be this minimum wage, you will have an unemployment rate. That's why they say there's always, full employment at about 4%, because we've got these interventions in the market. And the problem is, there'll be people who are not worth the minimum wage. There are people who don't have the skills, don't have the intellect, don't have the capacity to actually provide enough productivity to justify being paid the minimum wage, because there are other sources. Remember, we're in a different world now. We're in a different world. You can outsource work overseas. Everyone now has to compete on a global scale. So you may argue, okay, that's going to reduce our quality of life. Yes, it will, but it will also mean there'll be cheaper goods and services that people can take advantage of. So this is the situation. If you have taken advantage of minimum wage rules in one way or another, you are a party to just the natural unemployment rate that's considered. So if you're going, oh, the bloody bludgers not getting it, or getting free money, make them work, you kind of have to expect that is part of your responsibility now, because you've set a minimum wage at a level that some people can't even attain to. Some people aren't worth that money. They don't have the skills, they don't have the capabilities, but it also creates a barrier for people to enter the market. What if you've got no skills and you're willing to work for half the minimum wage? You'll just take that hit for a few years to build up the skills, to learn how to be productive. And most people don't understand how useless some people are when they get their first job. It's all about learning, and you get better with time. So this creates the problem is this creates a situation where you have people that can't get into the market, that are always going to be forced out by that unemployment. They can't build up their skills, so it takes opportunities away. And often it's the poorest people that are affected by this. So you've got all these advocates calling for this increase to this minimum wage to help these people, when in some ways they're hindering it. They're hindering them. They're keeping them locked into poverty. They're keeping them locked into a cycle of welfare. So that's the unpopular consideration with minimum wages that no one ever talks about. It's always just done to, I want more money, I want to do better. That's the other side of it, everyone. You have to realize. So if you're going to implement these interventions in the market, you have a duty of care to take care of the people that aren't at that level. And you can say, we can pay for training, we can pay for this. It's still, even if you've got the training, it's different to actually working on the job and learning. What do you think, everyone? Share some stories about how you have worked. How did you got your first job? Because then the problem is, by having this as well, you will get the people that will do work experience or internships for absolutely no money. And I've seen it in the architectural profession. And then you have a class divide. You've got the people who can't afford to do it for nothing, but could afford to do it for a much lower minimum wage, and you're getting a class divide then. There's certain firms here in Brisbane that literally will take students, sign them on contracts for nothing for 6 to 12 months at a time, and they're doing the equivalent of a real job, which is technically illegal too. And then other businesses have to compete with that. So let's have a look at this take on it. So Australia's lowest paid workers will get a wage increase by $13 weekly. Wage increase is on the way for Aussies earning minimum wage, but some say the rise just won't cut it in a nation on the brink of recession. Well, you're going to create more unemployment. Like I said here, every time, we'll go back here. What they've just done is they've moved this minimum wage, up to here. Then we go, there's supply, there's demand. So now they've increased unemployment by this amount, right before recession happens. This happens every year with regards to minimum wages, but this is what they've done. They've increased unemployment during times when it's tough, to get a job. And then unemployment has a whole lot of other social consequences and issues associated with it. Not just the money working you can get a lot from. It's important for people's identity and self-respect. So that's what they've done. So let's keep going with that in mind. So Australia's lowest paid workers will get $13 a week pay rise. This means The national minimum wage will rise by 1.75% to $753.80 a week, or $19.84 per hour, and will be phased in from July 1, the Fair Work Commission announced on Friday. The rise falls well short of the 3% increase to the minimum wage last year. And here's the thing. As a business owner, you'll get these cost increases. You may not be able to pass them on to your clients. You may not get any additional productivity as a result out of that. And that's a challenge that you have to deal with. Commission President Justice Ian Ross said it comes amid a significant downturn in Australia's economy driven by the pandemic. The shock to the labour market has been unprecedented, he said in a recorded message released on Friday morning. There are also significant downside risks to the economy ahead, he said, including the potential threat of a second wave of the pandemic. The outlook, including the nature and speed of the expected recovery, remains highly uncertain, he said. Big union body, the ACTU, had argued for a 4% rise this year. But business groups have argued the minimum wage should be frozen until mid-2021 to enable people impacted by the pandemic downturn to find jobs. Exactly. So just think about that. The unions, what they're calling for an even higher increase in the minimum wage, pulling the supply curve up here, and bigger unemployment, everyone. That's what they're calling for. During a recession, the Commission's decision directly affects 2.24 million low-paid workers and indirectly affects many more. Is there going to be any mention in this article about the impact on unemployment? Industrial Relations Minister Christian Porter had opposed any substantial increase to what is already the world's highest minimum wage. The pay rise will apply for human services and frontline workers from July 1, construction and manufacturing workers from November 1, and arts, retail and hospitality, tourism and aviation sector workers from February 1 next year. Well, a lot of people won't actually get the advantage of this because they'll never get hired again. Because it creates unemployment, everyone. There's the problem. I would like to see drastic or the opportunity for people to earn significantly below the minimum wage, particularly for a period maybe when they're coming into back to work. Maybe at least the long-term unemployed or people just starting out. Maybe give them other incentives, other ways to reduce their costs. Maybe make it cheaper for people to get to work. I mean, hell, if we're intervening in the market, give people a special card that they get, free or tax-free petrol. Tax-free petrol for their first 5 years. For everyone under 20, tax-free petrol as they're getting started. Why not? Why not? Sure, they'll be buying it for their mates. Some of them will on-sell it. Who cares? That's business. That's opportunity. It may give them a better chance, and then you allow them to be hired at a much lower minimum wage. Offset these things. Frankly, I'd rather we appreciate that every intervention we have in the market is going to have other consequences. And just think about it. What do you think, everyone? Do you think the minimum wage should be increased? How much unemployment should we be willing to have to give people a minimum wage? And how much of an impact is that going to have on the cost of goods and services that can't be manufactured here anymore and offshored because it's just cheaper and people can't afford it? As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us via our affiliate links at Amazon or eBay or Independent Reserve and Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you in the next video.